Hello and welcome to another edition of ATL Prime Sports. I'm Jurjevich. Joining me this evening is my fabulous producer, Wayne Ridenauer in wonderful Memphis, Tennessee. You can catch us all on social media at ATL Prime Sports, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Personal X's at JJ. Get you one for myself at RWY Jr. for Wayne. At Corder Todd for TC Todd Corder, who is supervising some umpires tonight, and at LG for Real Though, who is calling a high school football game or a little league football game one, and he is busy. Hopefully the Tigers win that one. Wayne, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm getting excited this coming Saturday in the morning. It's a morning game. We have the Memphis University homecoming game against the Charlotte 49ers. And if you want to know why there's 49ers in Charlotte, you have to look that up. It's an interesting story.
Well, I'm doing well. The NBA is tipped off. LeBron and his son have made history. The Hawks are playing the Nets as we speak. So the NBA is back in full swing. Just another sport for all you sportsters like myself out there. What's on tap for today's show? The Dave Cohen Report, and we'll preview and pick 6 of the best football games in our Pick 6. A 35-20 loss on the road to the Thundering Herd drops the Panthers to 2-4 on the season. The voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, joins us for the Dave Cohen Report. Dave, thanks for coming on. How are you this evening?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Can't complain. It's a big win for Georgia, and the SEC is stacked against each other. The SIAC is the same way. I had a overtime game, my first overtime game last weekend in the SIAC. So all is well here, Dave. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Well, you may not have anything to complain about, so let me start the complaining. I think the NBA and the NHL start way too early.
Nope.
I'm not happy about college basketball starting as early as it is. Last year, the first Georgia State game broadcast for me came when we still had 7 football games to play. This year, Georgia State basketball will open up on November 4 against Ball State in Atlanta. There'll still be 6 football games to be played. My point for saying that is, if you're old enough to remember back in the day, and former Georgia State basketball coach Charles Lefty Drizel was a part of it, and that's Midnight Madness.
Yeah.
And you could not start basketball practice officially until the 15th of October. So the night of the 14th, midnight, was the start of college basketball practice. My point of saying this is, let us enjoy college football in the National Football League. We don't need NBA basketball, which plays 82 games, and the NHL, 82 games plus playoffs. We do not need the NBA and the NHL in late October and early November. There's too much going on. Let us enjoy college football. Let us enjoy the National Football League, the World Series. For the soccer folks, enjoy Atlanta United playoff soccer. But no, we've got NBA basketball and the NHL playing a bunch of meaningless games in late October and early November. They shouldn't start. College basketball in particular should not start until at least November 15th.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've been telling anybody that'll listen to me, the NBA is now getting encroached upon in that time slot for the NFL. And everybody's going to gear towards football, as you said. I don't think the NBA should start till Christmas. I think they should make Christmas their opening day kickoff and have it be a huge deal. And then maybe you can compete with NFL viewership because it will be opening day and there'll be some excitement. And then you can play the series, the finals in, heck, August for all I care. I'm with you, Dave. Let us enjoy some college football before this thing tips off. I know you're about to be a busy man, and since we are talking a little basketball, why don't you preview these Georgia State men's Panthers here for our listeners?
Well, as a matter of fact, we enjoyed the tip-off luncheon earlier today at the Georgia State Convocation Center. This is going to be year 3 under Jonas Hayes, and Year one, they were 10-21. Last year, 14-17. Somewhat of another challenging schedule this year, non-conference with 3 on-the-road games in SEC buildings, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Auburn. Wayne mentioned Charlotte. We play a home game against the Charlotte 49ers this year. Got a couple of lower-level opponents as well, but Georgia State, in each of Coach Hayes' first 2 years, it's basically been roster turnover from season to season. Last year, a lot of new faces. I think there were 8 or 9 transfers that came in from last year to this year. Only 3 scholarship players from last year's roster are on this year's roster. So again, 8 or 9 new players, if you count a walk-on or 2. I've managed to catch a couple of 3 practices as they get ready to play an exhibition game on Saturday, which we will not be on radio for because we'll be in Boone on the radio with Georgia State football. But in a nutshell, Georgia State seems to be improved at all positions. They're definitely bigger than they were last year. A couple of 6'9", 6'10" kids. Our 7-footer who sat out last year is eligible. He's healthy and ready to go. Certainly he's a project player, but hopefully we'll be able to make some sort of a contribution. So definitely bigger, hopefully a better rebounding team along the front line. On the wings, hopefully improved and a little bit bigger, and definitely more skilled and a better shooting wing and guard team, I think, when I think back to what we lost or what we played with a year ago. I'm looking forward to Georgia State being a little bit more of a presence in the Sun Belt Conference in basketball this year. And, from a size standpoint, it's one thing to have size. It's another thing to have size that is skilled. And at the Sun Belt, sometimes when you see a 6'10" or a 6'11" kid, it's because they're not skilled enough to be an impact player at a Power 4 program. So they find their way to a group of 6 program or a group of 5. And I hope that what Coach Hayes has brought in, the transfers, that, they're going to be impact players with regards to Georgia State being a better team offensively up front and being a better defensive rebounding team with what he's brought in. But they will open the season officially November 4 here in Atlanta against the Cardinals of Ball State.
Yeah. So how would you rate their transfer portal moves before this season?
Actually, I think you're talking prior to this year?
Well, just leading up to this season.
I think with what he's brought in, like I said, there's definitely better size. The thing that if you go back and you look at, say, the transfers that Lefty Driesell brought in when he was at Georgia State, a lot of those kids were kids that were from Atlanta that had gone off to play elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Except for Kevin Morris was really the cornerstone for that time for Lefty in the program. He had come from New York and played at Georgia Tech and then transferred over to Georgia State. But Shenard Long was out of Tucker High School here in Atlanta. He came from Georgetown. Darryl Cooper, great player, came out of Stone Mountain, came back to Atlanta from LSU. So, Coach Driesell was able to bring kids back into the program, and I'm sure there's a couple more that I'm not thinking of right now, but bring kids back into the program that were from Atlanta who did not look at Georgia State as an option coming out of high school. Ron Hunter, when he was here during his 8-year stretch, did kind of the same thing. They were a lot of them, a higher number of them were Atlanta kids who wanted to come back and play in Atlanta and get a shot at additional playing time. Yeah. Rob Lanier was here for 3 years, not so much. And then fast forward to Jonas Hayes, and you're kind of seeing the same thing. One of the kids that I've been impressed with is Jelani Hamilton, who came out of Wheeler High School and transferred back from Iowa State. Another one of the guards, Malachi Brown from Buford, coming back from Seton Hall. We've got Atlanta kids who, again, for whatever reason, Georgia State was not an option when they were coming out of high school, and Georgia State has become an option as they've gone into the transfer portal, and they've made that decision that, given the option, it'd be great to go home and play in my hometown.
Yeah. Well, I asked that question because Memphis roster this year only has two familiar names. That would be Penny Hardaway and Nicholas Jourdain. The rest of them are all new. And so I'll be learning this team with everybody else with each passing game.
Well, the thing about recruiting now is, and I was talking to Georgia State's head football coach earlier today, Del McGee. You know, recruiting obviously with the portal has changed because not only are you recruiting during the off season to bring kids into your program, you're also recruiting your own players to try and keep them if they're good enough to land somewhere where they could make a lot more NIL money and play in a Power 4 program. So you're recruiting to get players in, and then you've got to re-recruit the players that you risk losing because they're your better players.
Right.
And Power 4 programs are noticing that, and they're coming after your players. They're basically raiding your roster.
Right. All right.
You mentioned all the players, the high school talent in this state. You see it up at the NBA level. You see it at the college level. So, yeah, I think Coach Hayes can recruit this city extremely well. Start building upon that, maybe name, image, likeness, get some deals in place, keep these hometown guys right here in this city. Huh, Dave?
It's easier said than done. Atlanta is everybody knows that college football and high school football and high school basketball and baseball for that matter, talent is all over the place in Metro Atlanta. I mean, no more evidence than just driving up 75 and going to the East Cobb Baseball Complex or a little further up and going to Lake Point to see what kind of talent is in the Atlanta, we'll call the Metro Atlanta area. You guys know high school football, some of the best talent in the country is in the Metro Atlanta area and the state of Georgia. And the same with basketball. But it's tough because, I mean, think about it, guys. With the amount of high school basketball talent in the state, you would think that the Georgia Bulldogs would be a perennial top 20 college basketball program. They struggle to get the better talent to stay home and play in Athens. Georgia Tech over the years has managed to keep a few kids at home, but the problem is that everybody recruits Atlanta. They fly into Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, and they can see hundreds of players in the Metro Atlanta area with one swoop through the city. Georgia State's got to fight like a Georgia Southern. You know, the Sun Belt schools. You know, Appalachian State recruits Atlanta a lot. Every school in the Sun Belt, every school in the Southern Conference, every school in every group of 6 in Power 4 conference has recruiting ties to the Metro Atlanta and the state of Georgia. And so Georgia State has got to carve out its niche to where it's at least getting look-see from potential talent. You know, some kids you're not going to convince. They want to go away to college. They want that away from home college experience. There are others who want to stay home if it's a good situation. They'll be close to home. They can go to school in downtown Atlanta. They can have the Georgia State experience. I know, I lived it. You know, I'm an alum. And they can still play in front of mom and dad on Saturday afternoons, or if it's football, or Thursdays or Saturdays, or whatever day it is if they're playing college basketball. So I understand some want to go away, but some also want to make that decision to play and stay closer to home.
Yeah, well, Memphis seems to be pulling mostly from Georgia Southern, so at least you don't have to worry about that.
Well, didn't Georgia Southern take your quarterback too?
Yeah, well, they took
that
one of
the played pretty well against us 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, well.
I wish he'd stayed at Memphis.
No, but we're in basketball now because you know, football's a whole nother thing, and I'm worried about Georgia State and the football, but I think you probably know more about that than I would.
Well, listen, I've never not been honest with you guys. We're going to limp to the end of the season. And I don't say that to be negative. I just call it as I see it. You know, Coach Del McGee got hired late based on Sean Elliott leaving when he did. 3 days into spring practice, pause spring practice. Coach Elliott leaves. Coach McGee ends up getting hired. He's got to put together a staff. He's got to put together a roster late. So you're pulling kids out of the portal late. I told him today, as a matter of fact, I'm really from someone on the outside looking in, meaning I'm not a coach and I'm not a player. From the outside of the locker room looking in, I'm really looking for next year and really year 3 when Georgia State really hits the ground running, when he has a full recruiting cycle and is not up against the clock to bring kids into the program as he was right after he got hired, but a full recruiting cycle or 2. And I think Georgia State will be in pretty good position to be a force in the Sun Belt and to drill down one level, the Sun Belt East.
Dave, let's transition over to football, as you were just talking about. 2-4, the Panthers are. This team does have a history of making some second half runs, but as you just mentioned, you're not looking forward but to limping. But there's plenty of reasons why the late hire you just mentioned, and give us your thoughts on the second half of the season moving forward and how they can come into this game against the App State team that has had a tough season, to say the least.
Yeah, but we're playing that game in Boone, and it might be a bit of a special atmosphere based on what that area has gone through with Helene, the storm,
yes,
the last few weeks. And we're going to be the first game to be played at Kid Brewer Stadium since the storm. We've played them 10 times. We have not beaten them once.
Never.
And the average margin of loss is 26 points. Now, we've come close a couple of 3 times, but we have never managed to beat them. This would be a great time to start that. But right now, we are heading into game 2 of our Sun Belt road game gauntlet, which started at Marshall last Saturday. It continues at App State, to be followed by a road game out of conference at UConn next Friday night, and then we'll finish off the road swing at James Madison up in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So if we weren't playing as many road games as we were, I might feel a little bit better about it, except for the fact that even when we were at home, we lost to Georgia Southern and we lost to Old Dominion. So it's not like there was any home field advantage that we were taking advantage of. In talking to Coach McGee earlier today, it's a lot of basic goals going into the game. It's a lot of, as I said with him today, stating the obvious. Got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to stop the run. And this is a pretty good running back room for Appalachian State. Georgia State had struggled to run the ball with 29 yards against Georgia Southern, 57 yards against Old Dominion. The running game rose from the dead at Marshall, 218 yards on the ground. We'll need another effort like that. And the injury bug has kind of, reached out and touched the running back room a little bit. So you're still going to see Freddie Brock, but now we're starting to see a little bit of C.J. Beasley, the transfer from Coastal Carolina. Not sure what Jordan Ford's status will be. He's been nursing some sort of an injury and didn't play against Marshall. As Coach McGee said, got to be consistent and play all 4 quarters. Go back to the Marshall game. We got down 18-0, and you spend the rest of the game trying to dig yourselves out of an 18-0 deficit. And if Marshall's able to run the football and control the clock, trying to make up an 18-point deficit can be a tough thing to do. And it was. 35-20, as you mentioned, the final score. So we also had a quarterback change. Zach Gibson got his first start of the season, the former quarterback from Johns Creek High School here in Metro Atlanta suburbs, who played at Akron and Georgia Tech before transferring. Now, he transferred to Georgia State while Sean Elliott was still the head football coach. So Christian Veyer, who transferred from Pitt, ended up winning the job out of fall camp, and played really well. I thought early in the season. Georgia Tech was a 35-12 loss, but then back-to-back wins over UT Chattanooga and Vanderbilt. but then it's been a struggle the last 3 weeks. So, the coaching staff got together, made the decision to give Zach Gibson a start, and I think they like what they see. But, I wouldn't be surprised if either one or both quarterbacks ended up seeing the field on Saturday. But, defensively, they got to slow down Joey Aguilar. I still think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. He's already thrown for over 1,700 yards. I mentioned the running backs. Kanye Roberts is their leading rusher, along with Anderson Castle, who I remember a year ago. And they've got some pretty nice receivers that have been around.
They do.
Caden Robinson and Christian Horn are two kids that I remember from the game a year ago. So it's not going to be an easy task. Anytime you go up the mountain to Boone, it's always going to be a tough game. The fact that they're 2-4 and 0-3, just like we are, they're looking at us coming up the mountain and saying, "Oh, hey, look at that! Here comes our first win."
Yeah,
in league play, and so we've got to go in there, and if they throw that first punch, football lingo.
Yeah.
Georgia State's got to take it and throw it right back. Cannot get down early and spend the rest of the day trying to claw your way back into the game.
Start using some of those Miyagi moves, wax on, wax off, to block some of those blows.
Yeah, well, you want to watch your hands. Kirby Smart on the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want anything happening. Dave, this game, real quick, your comments on this, and then we'll get you out of here. It kind of feels like the Falcons going to the Superdome after Katrina. And I get that. I know we're all for the Panthers. We're homers here, but I get that feeling. I think Georgia State's going to have to play a complete football game, and App State's definitely going to be pumped to put fans in the seats in Kidd Brewer and get back in that home atmosphere, which is one of the better home atmospheres in college football, folks. If you have not been, Kidd Brewer Stadium is awesome and one of the most probably scenic stadiums in college football.
No question. Every time I've been there, whether the weather's been great, I've been there when there's been a driving snowstorm, there's always 30,000 plus in Kidd Brewer. You're right. It is one of the better college football game day experiences. From Coach McGee on down, they like being a road team, so they say, going in and circling the wagons, and it's us against 30,000 plus fans. Let's quiet them down and let's get off to a good start and let's do our thing. If the Georgia State team that played Vanderbilt that Saturday shows up in Boone, we might get off the mountain with the W. If the Georgia State team that came out of the tunnel at Center Park Stadium against Georgia Southern and Old Dominion, we may not come off the mountain with a W. Are we capable? Is Georgia State capable? No question. Is there enough talent on the roster? No question. You saw it against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to reemerge for App State.
It is crazy that the Panthers have a ranked win on their belt, Yep. They got a ranked win. Well, Dave, thanks for joining us this evening. Listeners, you can catch Dave on X at GA State Voice, and tell our listeners how they can catch the Panther Insider podcast and your call against App State Saturday at 1 p.m.
Panther Insider podcast is our not quite weekly, but it's our official Georgia State University podcast. You can access that at georgiastatesports.com. And then we're back on the radio Saturday, 12:30 with our pregame 1 o'clock kick from Kidd Brewer up in Boone. We'll be on 88.5 FM WRAS on the website, WRAS.org, on the GSU Athletics mobile app, 97.5 FM WGTJ out of Gainesville, Georgia, and on their website. Online at lowcountryradio.com. That's our online affiliate out of Savannah, Georgia. And then, of course, for those folks that are still utilizing TuneIn Radio app, you can go onto the TuneIn Radio app and just search WRAS or WGTJ, and you'll find us.
Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers football, baseball, and basketball, which is about to tip off. Thanks for joining us as always, Dave, and go Panthers.
All right, appreciate it. Hopefully we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right.
Hopefully, and with the W in hand, the first one against those Mountaineers of App State.
Let me tell you, and I've never experienced it, at least in football, but nothing's finer than coming off that mountain up in Boone with a W.
Man.
I agree. It's a tough place to play. So we'll be catching the call Saturday, 1 p.m. Again, Georgia State travels to Boone, North Carolina to take on App State. It's becoming a pretty good rivalry in this conference. Dave, thanks again for coming on. We'll talk to you next week in the Dave Cohen Report.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Again, guys, Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers, football, baseball, and basketball. You can find Dave on X, again, at GA State Voice. We move from Dave Cohen to Pick Six. Getting a little chilly in here, so I have to turn off the fan there, Wayne.
Gotcha.
Move on from, again, Dave Cohen to our Pick Six. We picked 6 football games for the upcoming week. Spreads are from ESPNBet.com, and we use Wednesday spreads. We'll pick 5 college games and 1 pro game. You know the pro game already, wearing the Falcons hat. And we'll do the 5 ranked games. So, Wayne, let's tee this thing off, man, as we always do with the standings. I had a hell of a week last week. I went 5-1. I caught up with all you cats. Larry went 2-4. You went 2-4 and went, if I can talk, Todd went 3-3 and gained a game. So 5-1 moved me to 25, 28-1 on the season in 3rd place. 3-3 dropped Todd to 24, 29-1. And Larry at 31, 22-1 at 2-4 last week. And Wayne, you are 1 game behind at 30, 23-1. Let's get things going. Our first game of the weekend is a noon kickoff on ABC featuring the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 6-1 versus the number 24 Navy midshipmen who come in unbeaten at 6-0. Notre Dame's a 12-point favorite. The over-under of this one is 52.5. Wayne, what say you, my friend?
With that many points on the table, I almost definitely have to take Navy in the points, but I think Navy's probably going to win this outright.
Ooh, I like the bold prediction there. I, on the other hand, am going the opposite way.
Right.
Notre Dame leads the series 82-13-1. It is a neutral site, folks. MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Navy is a top 30 team in both scoring offense and defense. Over 44 points per game, 44.8 if you want to get technical. It's 4th in the country on offense. And defensively, they only give up 19.7 points per game. That's good for, I think, 30th, dead even in the country. Navy being unbeaten is a great story, folks. I love it. I'd love to see him continue. But it ends right here.
Oh, man.
Who have they played? Air Force, 1 win. Temple, 2 wins. UAB.
They beat Memphis.
Back to 1 win. Charlotte, 3 wins, and the best team they've played is your Memphis Tigers, Wayne, who have 6 wins, and I do think it was a fluky win. I think if you guys played them 10 times, you'd beat them 9, but Memphis did drop that game. That's 6 of the 13 wins combined by the FBS teams Navy has beaten. Again, 6 of those from the Memphis Tigers. To me, Notre Dame has won 5 in a row since the loss to Northern Illinois by an average of 30 points per game. I think Riley Leonard and the 2-headed backfield of Notre Dame gets it going. I like Notre Dame in this one pretty big. And we'll go ahead and go over Larry, who takes the Naval Academy as well. So we're split, and Todd takes Notre Dame to cover like I did. We'll go to our second game of the week. Number 20, the Fighting Illini of Illinois come in at 6-1 to Autzen Stadium and face the number 1 team in the land, the Oregon Ducks, at 7-0. Coach Lanning and the Ducks are 21.5-point favorites. Over-under in this one's 54.5. This game started out at 25, about 23, 24, moved up to 25. It's back down to 21. 3:30 p.m. on CBS. Oregon throws the ball really well, Wayne. 13th in college football in that category with over 300 yards per game. Also, Dan Lanning's team plays pretty good defense. As you would know from his days at Georgia and the defensive coordinator, they're 13th overall in the country at 16.6 points per game in scoring defense. And they got a good quarterback. Dylan Gabriel's played a lot of college football starting at Central Florida, going to Oklahoma, now at Oregon. And he's done nothing but take care of the football, Wayne. 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. I think the Fighting Illini will need this to be a low-scoring game to have a shot, and I just don't think it will be. I wish it was, because I love the Fighting Illini. I love Brett Bielema and the story, because the Fighting Illini fans, it's a basketball school, so it's good to see Indiana and the Fighting Illini good and at the top of the Big Ten standings. But again, just like the Navy party, I think the Fighting Illini's party is extinguished. The common opponent is Purdue in this game. Oregon beat Purdue 35-0 on the road, while Illinois needed overtime to beat the Boilermakers at home and gave up 530 yards. Give me the Ducks to cover. They fly high. They win by 23 or 24 points. But I do think it's a competitive ball game until the fourth quarter, where Oregon's death just takes over. Oregon and the Ducks. Wayne, are you taking the same approach? A lot of points. You're going with the underdog?
When I saw that matchup, my knee-jerk reaction was to automatically pick Oregon. But then I looked at the points, and I'm like, there's no way that Oregon's going to win by that many points. So I have to pick the Illinois and the points on this one.
It is a lot of points. The only reason I'm going with that is the common opponent is huge to me, and Autzen Stadium is a tough place to play. It's the first time they'll be traveling that far this season, the Illini. So give me the Ducks. Larry is taking the Illini and the points as well. And Todd, we are split yet again on the first two games. Oregon covers for Todd and myself. We are dead even right now in the pick six. Split both ways. Our third game, number 21, the Missouri Tigers, 6-1, travel to Tuscaloosa to take on the number 15, Alabama Crimson Tide. The Tide are 5-2. They're 14-point home favorites. Over-under in this one's 54.5, 3:30 p.m. on ABC. Wayne, what say you?
Well, you'd think Alabama at home would be an automatic pick, but once again, with Alabama playing like they are and Missouri playing like they are, I don't possibly see Alabama winning by 14 points. That's just goofy. Missouri has nothing to lose, and I just think they're going to go in there and rampage on Alabama at home.
I like the house money take. I do. They got nothing to lose, and a team that has nothing to lose in a game like this usually does come out on top. Larry's taking Missouri in the points. TC's taking Missouri in the points. JJ is not. I'm going with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Look, Missouri is a top 10 defense. They only allowed just over 15 points per game. Alabama's offense is really good. 38 points per game this year. Alabama's unbeaten at home this year. Unbeaten at home. There are 2 losses on the road. Obviously, both Tennessee schools, Vandy. So they don't want to play in that state. They're playing in Alabama, Wayne, and I like their chances. Kalen DeBoer also, as a head coach, 77-1 in his career at home. That is pretty darn impressive. Jalen Milroe puts on a show and reminds fans, hey, we're still Alabama. I like Alabama to win the game by 16, 17 points. And, boy, we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Lots of points in the big ranked games this weekend. Number 4, Texas. The fourth game of the weekend is number 5, Texas. They're 6-1. They travel to Nashville and take on the Vanderbilt Commodores, who are ranked 25th in the country. They're 5-2 with a win over Alabama. They're home underdogs at minus 18.5 points. Over under on that one's 52 and a hook. 4:15 p.m. on the SEC network. Texas, 2 of 15 on third downs versus UGA. They can't do that on the road versus a pretty good Vandy team. Vandy is ranked for the first time since 2013, but Vandy struggled putting up points against Kentucky and Ball State after a big win versus Alabama. They have not put up 40 points since. Texas's defense is still the best in the country, giving up just over 9.7 a game. That point total averaged 6.5 before the Georgia game. So give you an idea, it added 3 points to that average. But Texas defense is still good. They're still really good on the interior defensive line, and they're still going to protect Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning, whoever decides to play quarterback. I do believe it'll be Quinn Ewers. I think they'll settle down early. I think they'll figure out how to play in Nashville with the construction going on during the game. And I just do. I think the Horns hook them and get back on track. They cover the 18.5-point spread. They win by 21 points. And everybody forgets about Vandy's cute little story for just a little bit. But they won't be done because they got some winning left to do. But I'm taking the Horns to hook them big time. Wayne, what say you?
Well, you're going to probably see a little bit of a trend here, but, when Las Vegas lays down this many points for any game, it just attracts my attention to the utmost. And I got a feeling Vanderbilt's trick up their sleeve to, win this game is going to be the chaos theory, and I don't think Texas is going to know what to do with it. So I'm taking Vanderbilt in the points on this, but I sort of think Vanderbilt may win this outright.
They may do it. Diego Pavia is a really good player. Clark Lee has this team and these fans believing. There might be a couple more Vanderbilt fans packed into this thing. Texas might not bring as many fans as you think, and could be a unique environment. Let's see, Wayne, who agrees with you? Larry's going with me to take Texas covering. Todd's going Vandy in the points. So we're split there again. 2-2 on each side has been a theme. So that's our fourth game. Our fifth and final college game is number 8, Louisiana State. 6-1 travels to College Station to take on the 14th ranked Texas A&M Aggies. They're also 6-1. A&M is a 2.5-point home favorite. Over/under in this one's 53 and a hook. 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Good day of college football on ABC yet again, folks. LSU is one of the best passing attacks in college football. It's 8th overall with over 322 yards per game. A&M has a top 20 scoring defense, 17.7 points per game. This was the toughest game of the weekend to pick. I think Nussmeier's going to quiet the crowd early. I think Brian Kelly will keep his team in the game. And I think LSU wins this game by a field goal or so late. But this is a coin flip of a game, and I had a hell of a time picking it. But I'm going with the Tigers in my Ed Orgeron voice. To Tigers in the points. My only underdog I'm taking the whole weekend is the LSU Tigers. Wayne, what say you?
Yeah, I have to say that it's a strange thing, given the recent history of the SEC, to look at the current standings and see these two teams at the very top of the SEC. But I feel like LSU has a little bit better momentum than Texas A&M, so I'm taking LSU in the points.
LSU in the points for Larry and LSU in the points for TC. We're all on the same page. That makes me want to change it to A&M, but I'm going to stick with it because we were all right on the Ravens on Monday Night Football. All right, our final Pick 6 game of the weekend. It's the Falcons at 4-3, the Buccaneers at 4-3, and Falcons are traveling to their division foes in Tampa Bay this time around. Atlanta's 2.5-point road favorites. Over/under in this one's 46 and a hook. Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox. Wayne, why are you taking the Falcons?
Well, this is the one game that I'm not taking the points on. So I'm taking Falcons to cover as a retribution for that. Didn't they lose the first time they played them?
No, they beat the Buccaneers the first time they played them.
Well,
that
good.
was that Thursday
then
night performance.
Then I'm looking for the sweep.
You're looking for the sweep. So you like the Falcons?
Yep.
The only team you're taking as a favorite.
Right.
Larry is also taking the Falcons. Todd taking the Falcons, and your boy is taking the Falcons. I can't go against the Falcons. When Tampa Bay opened up as a 3-point favorite, then the injury news came in on wide receivers Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Mike Evans, a hamstring injury. He had the MRI Tuesday. He has already been ruled out. Chris Godwin dislocated his left ankle, expected to undergo season-ending surgery. There's still a slight chance he could come back if they make a playoff run, but they're not expecting that whatsoever. So I think the Falcons bounce back. They need a bounce-back performance. They did that in weeks 2 and 4 with wins over the Eagles and the Saints, Wayne. They did a great job of bouncing back after tough losses to the Steelers and obviously the Chiefs. I think they do that. I think they take advantage of a Bucs team that is really, really weak in one phase of the game. That's pass defense. The Falcons come in 5th in the NFL in passing yards per game, averaging over 251 yards a game. The Bucs passing defense is near the bottom of the barrel in the NFL. They're 29th, allowing over 254 yards per game. That's why you saw a 500-yard passing performance the last time these two teams played from Kirk Cousins. So I like the Falcons to cover, and without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, this game could get ugly pretty quickly because I don't think they have enough weapons on the outside. I think A.J. Terrell and Phillips, this defensive line, Grady Jarrett, Harrison, and company, they're eating right now. They're getting after the quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield's uncomfortable. I like the Falcons to win this game. Another one comfortably, which will be pretty nice for a change, Wayne. So we're all picking the Falcons. We're all picking the Tigers.
Yeah,
I split on Vandy and Texas. Oh, actually, I'm the only one that took Texas. So
I do want to say something about this Falcons Buccaneers game. Just on the off chance that the Buccaneers win, I will just to suffer the consequences. I will restrict myself to eating mahi tacos for the rest of the week.
That is funny. Well, we'll move from the pick six to our final thought. My first final thought, Wayne, I'll tee this one off because it's kind of long-winded. It is the World Series. Major League Baseball has gotten its Dodgers-Yankees World Series for the 12th time. The first time since 1981. Both teams are number one seeds. So someone in the National League figured out the jinx of getting by the bye week. Because the bye week was undefeated against the National League. Just completely undefeated. So, Yankees coming to this World Series having an on-base percentage of .347. They're walking at an unbelievable rate, 13.9% walk rate. The Yankees make starting pitchers work real hard, Wayne. New York is averaging 4 pitches per plate appearance this postseason. The walks I mentioned, the Yanks are drawing. They're putting consistent traffic on the base, creating pressure situations for these starting pitchers early. And it's early and often they're doing it, Wayne. It's early and often. The leadoff hitter and Yankees second baseman Gleyber Torres has reached base in the first inning of 8 of 9 postseason games. And for Juan Soto, their second hitter, he's done so in 7 of 9 postseason games. Reaching base in the first inning, taking walks, extending at-bats. That's what gets starting pitchers out of the game early. That leads managers to get in their bullpens quicker than they would like. And that is why I like the Yankees in 6 games. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm thinking the Yankees in 6. Wayne, that is my final thought. I cannot wait for this World Series. It is going to be an instant fall classic. What's your final thought, Wayne?
Well, I had the baseball playing back there in the background. Those are all the home runs from the 2023 season. But I just received some incorrect false information from a top secret source that says that both of those teams, LA and New York, may be disqualified from the World Series due to recruiting violations by John Calamari. So that needs to be looked into, I think, before anything else.
That is great, folks. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. We're easy to find at ATL Prime Sports across all the board. Apple, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, X, formerly known as Twitter. He's Wayne. I'm JJ right here in Lilburn, Georgia. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next week for another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Get you one.